Today is a great day because I'm going to be exploring one of the most beautiful spaces in the history of art. It's a chapel entirely conceived by the very greatest of Renaissance artists, and it resides in this little dome behind me. My name is Jasper Roscoe, and welcome to the Medici Chapel by Michelangelo. I'm going to say some things about this place that might seem over the top, but I also think they need to be said. The moment you walk in here, you've left Italy. You're somewhat disconnected from time and space, as though you've entered a kind of frozen recess that is not part of the world you know. It is a representation of heaven by the one man who might have been up to the task, Il Divino Michelangelo, the divine Michelangelo, as was his nickname in the Renaissance. And in fact, a contemporary biographer of his explains that he was sent from God to demonstrate in every art the meaning of perfection. And when you spend some time here, you begin to see why he is described in such elevated terms. It is all grace. Before we go any further, I might as well just address the elephant in the room. There is a lot of scaffolding up at the moment, which does slightly disturb the beauty of this place, but we'll just have to pretend that it's not there. Michelangelo's ability to create such a harmonious space is the result of a meticulous attention to proportion. The size relationships between all the architectural features are carefully calculated to conform to the golden section, a ratio that was often employed during the Renaissance since it was considered to be the most pleasing. It is also a ratio that repeated many patterns that can be observed in nature, for example, the shell of a snail. Every architectural feature seems to be dictated by the golden section in one way or the other. The width and height of the lower level, the height of the door, the separation between sub-levels, the thickness of the columns, the list is endless. Even the pose of the sculptures that appear in such a relaxed natural form are dictated by this ratio. In the Italian Renaissance, great art and great mathematics went hand in hand. Whilst we're on the topic of size relationships, I'd like to draw your attention to a little Michelangelo trick in the ceiling. The square vaults are not all the same size. The largest ones are on the outside, and then they have been carved ever smaller the closer they are to the centre. The illusion is that this is an incredibly high ceiling to project a lofty sense of divinity, but in fact it is very shallow. And then completing the meaning of this space are the sculptures of dawn and dusk, day and night, lying opposite one another in human form. They are idealized and nude like classical gods. For the muses of time to exist together, frozen in the same space, we must no longer be on earth. We are in a harmonious sanctuary, a graceful place to escape to and contemplate faith without the pressure of one's life ticking ever forward. Michelangelo clearly does not believe that the ideal space for worship should be any kind of intimidating expression of Christian power, but a temple of tranquility. That is, if he felt this chapel had to serve Christianity at all. Michelangelo's original design did not seem to include much Christian imagery. But of course, it did have to serve someone. In 1520, Michelangelo was commissioned to build this chapel as a mausoleum for the Medici family, the family that had effectively ruled over Florence throughout the Renaissance, the family whose patronage of great artists changed the course of art. And yet one feels as though Michelangelo did not create this building with great consideration for his noble patrons either. Of course he had to do a bit of flattering. The sculptures of Lorenzo and Giuliano are completely idealized beyond the point of looking like real people. Instead, they appear with all the implied divinity of ancient Roman emperors and wear the uniform to match. However, these figures are so idealized that they have no specific characteristics that one could associate with an individual. They are ambiguous, resting in contemplative poses to seem like allegories, perhaps representing the spirit of humanity in general, endlessly contemplating the universe through time, between dawn and dusk, day and night. In reality, the Medici have very little presence here, other than their remains which are held within these tombs. All the other sculptures have nothing to do with the Medici, and their coat of arms is nowhere to be seen. I think Michelangelo saw this commission as an opportunity to create his vision of a divine, perfect space, drawn from his spiritual and artistic sensibility. But did he achieve perfection? Well, you'd have to say no, because it is unfinished. If it had been finished, the tomb of Lorenzo the Magnificent would surely have been an incredible sight to behold, since he was by far the most significant of the Medicis who were buried here. But instead, we are left with a blank wall. The altar is also comparatively bare. These empty areas really disrupt the flow of the space. They are strikingly sparse amidst the ornate nature of the rest. So why didn't Michelangelo finish this chapel?
In short, there was a revolution. The Medici were kicked out of power in 1527, and Michelangelo, who was not the greatest of Medici fans, joined the new republic in fortifying the city. But in 1531, the Medici regained power after an 11-month siege. Michelangelo was in trouble. His lack of loyalty would surely be punished, and so he went into hiding. And of all the places he could have gone, it was the Medici Chapel that he chose to hide. More specifically, a little side room where he spent 2 weeks of his life waiting and doodling. But when Michelangelo doodles, it's something truly beautiful. Eventually, the Medici find Michelangelo, but he gets away with a pardon from the Pope on the condition that he comes to Rome and finishes off the Sistine Chapel. From then on, Michelangelo would be increasingly committed to projects in Rome, and so sadly never got round to finishing the Medici Chapel.
Some of Michelangelo's sculptures are also unfinished. For example, his representation of Day. The face emerges from the bare, untamed rock. The mark of the chisel has not been ironed out for a smooth finish. Yet, unlike the architecture, I don't see this as such a shame. We have an opportunity here to see Michelangelo's process. We have been granted resource to imagine how he transformed coarse stone to flesh. The initial blast from the hammer and chisel that round out the face and separates it from the stone. Then more precise work to get the size of the face right, while still leaving enough stone to maximise the possible ways in which the hair can be rendered later. And then ever finer chisel work to give relief to smaller features. Finally, the use of abrasives for a smooth finish. Where there is a mark, there is the possibility to imagine Michelangelo applying a stroke 500 years ago, and that is something I find very exciting. Plenty of Michelangelo's sculptures in this chapel are also finished, presenting a wonderful opportunity to enjoy his mastery of the medium. Throughout the history of Western sculpture, there was no one better than Michelangelo, in my opinion. His work strikes me instinctively as brilliant. His sculpture calms me. I feel satisfied, like I have seen something perfect, and it is pleasing to see something complete, everything in the right place. But because it is instinctively great, it is difficult to work out exactly why it is. Maybe it's the beauty of the marble and all the textures he's achieved with it. The smoothness of the marble flesh, the fluidness of marble hair, and the hardness of carved ornament. Maybe it's the contorted poses. Their monumental forms curve, their musculature stretches and tenses in a captivating way, full of life. Maybe it's some underlying mathematics or the beauty of their idealization. Certainly there is something satisfying in seeing the perfect human form. However, it is even in the simple moments that his superior brilliance shines through. Moments that you wouldn't have thought would offer the sculpture the opportunity to show why they are so good.
I doubt I'll ever be able to come up with an explanation that really pins down why Michelangelo was a level above the rest. But maybe that's why he was so good. that there's something mystical there, something that just cannot be broken down to mere language, that instinctively satisfies. I hope you enjoyed the video today. Please like and subscribe if you feel compelled. There will be more content coming soon. Also, if you have any thoughts about what I've discussed, chuck them in the comments below. It'd be great to get a discussion going. All of this is subjective at the end of the day. Thanks for watching.